I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened. I met Lisa about 5 years ago. She was the kind of girl who could be charming when she wanted to be, but deep down, she always had this bitchy edge. She loved to lie, loved to play the victim, and never really took responsibility for her actions. Still, I fell for her pretty hard. She was gorgeous, successful, and she said all the right things at first. Things were perfect, or at least I thought so, until about 3 months ago. I was diagnosed with cancer. Stage 3, not great, but I was determined to fight it. Lisa became a sort of emotional roller coaster during that time. One day she'd be supportive, the next she'd be distant, and then she'd get angry at me for needing her so much. She would say stuff like, "You're so emotional right now, it's like I'm dating a different guy," or "Maybe this is just too much for me." And I bought it. I mean, how could I not? I was fighting for my life. But deep down, I kept sensing something was off. The real signs started showing up when she was suddenly busier than usual. I'd come home, and her phone was always on silent, tucked away in her purse. She'd make excuses about work, about friends, about everything. And there was one other thing: her attitude shifted. She became snappier, more dismissive. I'd ask her about her day, and she'd brush me off, giving these little smirks that didn't sit right. I told myself it was just the stress of my diagnosis, that maybe she was overwhelmed. But a part of me kept feeling like there was more beneath the surface. Then came the night when I saw the message. It was a random evening, and I was going through her phone just out of habit. I know, I shouldn't have, but I was desperate for reassurance. I noticed a new contact saved under a name I didn't recognize. No big deal, right? Except I looked closer. The messages weren't about work or casual chit-chat. They were flirty, suggestive, and there were pictures, lots of pictures. It was her, with someone I didn't know, in bed on a night she told me she was working late. The pictures looked recent, and the captions were so obvious. I couldn't believe it. My stomach sank. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I stared at her in the living room, my hands trembling, trying to hold back the madness. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept analyzing everything. Her lies, the little things I ignored, the way she'd get defensive when I asked about her phone. I knew then that she'd been cheating on me behind my back for a while. The worst part: the night before our wedding anniversary, she was with another guy. My brother. Yeah, my own wife, my supposed soulmate, slept with my brother. I found out the night before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. And I swear, it was like my entire world just crumbled. That's when I started planning my revenge. I didn't want her to get away with it. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd caused me, the betrayal that cut so deep I still can't believe I didn't see it coming. I needed to do something, and I knew I had to be smart about it. But first, I needed to confront her. That's where I'm at now, trying to figure out what to say, how to say it, and what my next move should be. I couldn't sleep that night after I saw the messages. My mind was racing, but mostly I was just numb. I kept replaying everything I'd discovered, trying to make sense of it all. How could Lisa do this? How could she cheat on me, the guy fighting cancer, the guy who loved her more than anything? And with my own brother, no less. That thought made me feel sick, like I'd been punched again, only worse. It was betrayal on every level. The thing is, Lisa's not the type to admit fault easily. She's used to lying her way out of things, twisting stories until she's the victim in her own little world. I knew if I confronted her immediately, she'd deny everything or come up with some lame excuse. So I decided to wait, to gather more evidence and plan my next move carefully. I wanted her to think I didn't know. I wanted her to feel safe, confident that she had gotten away with her little secret. That's when I started watching her more closely. The next day was a nightmare. She acted like nothing was wrong, hands on her hips, smirking when I looked at her funny. That bitchy smirk she always had when she thought she was winning. I could see the flicker of guilt behind her eyes sometimes, but she was good at hiding it. She kept up the act like a queen in her own little world of lies. I kept asking myself what the hell I was doing with her all these years. How did I not see it before? How did I miss the signs? But I guess love and hope can blind you to the truth. That night I sat her down. I told her I knew she'd been lying to me about her late nights and her strange behavior. I showed her the messages I'd found. Her face froze for a moment like she was caught in headlights, then she started her usual bullshit. She told me I was paranoid, that I was projecting, that it was all a mistake or a misunderstanding. She said, "You're sick, Mike. Your cancer's messing with your head. Maybe you're seeing things. Maybe you're just jealous because I've been stressed too." I looked at her, rage bubbling up inside. I asked her how she could lie to my face, how she could sleep with my brother when I was fighting for my life. And her response, she laughed nervously, then said, "It's not like that. You're overreacting. We're just friends, Mike. You're so paranoid. You've always been a little jealous of my brother. We didn't do anything serious. It's just sex, a little fun. Don't make it a bigger deal than it is." That was the moment I realized how much she was lying. She always had a way of twisting things, making herself the victim, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I could see right through her fake tears, her fake apologies, her fake everything. I felt angry, betrayed, and incredibly hurt. My own wife, my brother, people I trusted, had betrayed me in the worst way possible. And the worst part, she was still lying. I kept asking myself, how could she even look me in the eye and deny everything? The woman I loved, the woman I married, was a cheater, a liar. And she was trying to manipulate the truth just like she always did. I was so torn between rage and sadness that I didn't even know what to feel first. All I knew was that my life, my marriage, was falling apart before my eyes, and I didn't see a way back. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of lies and heartbreak, and I didn't know if I'd make it out of this intact. After that confrontation, everything changed. I couldn't look at Lisa the same way anymore. The woman I thought I knew was just a mask, a lie she carefully crafted to hide her true self. I felt numb most of the time, but underneath that numbness was this burning, searing rage. I kept asking myself how the hell I was supposed to move on from this. How do you forgive someone who slept with your brother behind your back while you were fighting for your life? Honestly, I didn't have an answer. That night, I stayed up, scrolling through every message, every photo, trying to understand how she could do this. It was like a sick puzzle, and I was the only one left holding the pieces. The more I looked, the more I realized that Lisa wasn't just cheating on me. She was actively lying, gaslighting, and playing with my mind. She had this way of turning everything around, making me feel guilty, making me doubt myself. That's how she always was, bitchy, manipulative, and relentless. She'd lie so convincingly that I'd start questioning my own memories, my own instincts. I decided I needed to get some space. I packed a bag, told her I was going to stay at my brother's house for a while, pretending I was just taking a break. Honestly, I wanted to see what she'd do, how she'd react when she realized I knew everything. I wanted her to feel the chaos I was feeling inside. When I left, she threw a fit, acting like I was overreacting, calling me paranoid, saying I was making everything up. But I could see the panic in her eyes, the way her lips trembled, and I knew she wasn't fooling anyone. While I was away, I started digging into her phone, her social media, her emails, anything I could find. I wanted to know exactly how long this affair had been going on, how deep it went. What I found was worse than I expected. There were messages from weeks ago, plans to meet up, flirtatious texts that bordered on obsession. And then I stumbled on something that made my stomach turn. A string of messages with my brother, talking about how they couldn't keep away from each other, how much they wanted to see each other again. Alongside that, there were photos, more pictures of her and him, in bed, at dinners, everywhere. That's when I saw the full scope of her lies. She'd been cheating on me with my own brother for months. All the while, she was pretending to be this supportive, loving wife. She's a master manipulator, a real piece of work. I couldn't even process how she thought she could get away with it, how she thought she could keep lying to my face while she was screwing her own brother behind my back. It was a shock that still hits me like a gut punch every time I think about it. I knew I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I had to confront her with everything I'd found. But I also knew I needed to be smart about it. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done, to see her own lies unravel. When I finally called her, I didn't hold back. I told her I knew everything, that I had all the proof. Her reaction, that bitchy smirk again, like she thought she could just lie her way out of it. She denied it at first, tried to tell me I was mistaken, that I was just paranoid because I was sick. But I laid out the messages, the pictures, the dates. There was no denying it anymore. Her face paled when I told her I knew she slept with my brother. She tried to deny, to make me believe she was innocent, but I knew better. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the way her hands trembled, how her voice cracked. She kept saying how she didn't mean for it to happen, how she was just lonely, how she never loved me anymore. But I wasn't buying any of it. I'd been blind for so long, trying to hold on to this idea of us, but now I saw her true face. The woman I married was a liar, a cheater, and a manipulator. That moment was the turning point. I realized I had to decide what I was going to do about it. I couldn't stay in the same house with her, not after what I knew. It was time to face the reality I'd been avoiding. This marriage was over. I felt a crushing mix of sadness and anger, but deep down, I also knew I had to protect myself. I couldn't let her destroy me any further. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever be able to trust again, or if I'd just become a shell of the man I used to be. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without paying some kind of price. After I confronted her with all the proof, Lisa's reaction was classic. She tried to play innocent, to act like I'd misunderstood, but her sorry-ass face couldn't hold the act. She kept insisting she loved me, that it was just a moment of weakness, that she didn't mean for it to happen. Yeah, right. Her words were dripping with bullshit, and I could see through her. It was like watching a snake trying to pretend it was harmless. I was furious, no, beyond furious. How could she sit there and lie to my face after everything? I felt like I was about to explode. I told her she had no right to come near me, to pretend she was the victim now. I told her I knew she was a manipulative, selfish bitch who only cared about herself. Honestly, I didn't even want to hear her words anymore. It was all just noise. I could feel my blood boiling. That night I packed my things. I couldn't stay in the same house with her, not anymore. I told her to leave, that I didn't want her anywhere near me. She begged, of course, said she was sorry, that she'd change, that she loved me, that she'd never do anything like this again. But I knew better. I knew this wasn't just about a mistake. It was about who she was. I didn't want her fake apologies. I didn't want to see her bitchy smirk again, not after she had slept with my own brother. I felt so betrayed I couldn't even cry. All I could do was sit there, staring at the wall, trying to process what had just happened. I kept thinking about the moments I missed, the signs I ignored, the trust I had lost. The worst part was knowing that she'd lied to me so many times, that she'd played me for a fool. And my brother, my own flesh and blood, was just as guilty. They'd both stabbed me in the back, and I was left bleeding, trying to pick up the pieces. In the days that followed, I kept replaying everything in my head. I was angry at myself for trusting her for so long, angry at her for being so manipulative, angry at my brother for betraying me too. Every time I thought about it, my stomach clenched. I was haunted by images of her with him, the nights they spent together behind my back while I was battling cancer. It felt like my entire world was collapsing and I didn't see a way out. But as much as I was furious, I also felt this profound sadness. I loved her once. I truly believed she was the one. And now I was faced with the brutal truth. She wasn't who I thought she was. She's a liar, a cheat, and a user. I realized I needed to get out of the fog, to focus on healing, physically and emotionally. Staying in that house, pretending everything was okay, would only destroy me further. So I made the decision. I was leaving. I needed space. I needed to distance myself from the chaos she brought into my life. I found a small apartment nearby, just enough to get away and breathe. I knew it was going to be tough, not just breaking up with her, but facing the fact that everything I believed in, everything I loved, had been a lie. But I also knew I couldn't keep living in denial. I deserved better. I deserved to be happy, even if it meant starting over alone. That night I told her I was done. She screamed, cried, begged me to stay, but I didn't care anymore. I just walked out, feeling like I was carrying a ton of bricks on my shoulders. I was heartbroken, angry, and numb all at once. And as I drove away, I promised myself I'd never let someone so toxic into my life again. This is a lesson I won't forget. Trust has to be earned, not given away blindly, especially not to someone who lies and cheats behind your back. Living alone after everything was a nightmare I didn't see coming. The house felt cold and empty, like the walls were closing in on me. Every corner reminded me of her, of the betrayal, of the nights I spent trying to hold myself together while she and my brother were out there, living their lie. I felt shattered, but strangely, that breakage was also a kind of relief. I couldn't keep pretending I was okay, not knowing what she did behind my back. I started seeing a therapist just to keep my head straight. Honestly, I didn't think I'd get through it, but I forced myself to face the pain instead of running from it. The anger was raw, and I was terrified I'd turn bitter or bitterly revengeful, but I knew I couldn't let that consume me. I had to find a way to heal, to rebuild my life. And that's what I did. I threw myself into work, into my friends, into anything that could distract me from the chaos of my thoughts. But I couldn't escape the images, her in bed with my brother, the lies, the fake tears she'd shed trying to manipulate me. It played on repeat, a constant loop I could shut off. I couldn't sleep most nights. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything fell apart so fast. One thing I realized was how much I had let her control me. I was so desperate to hold on to the marriage, to keep what little family I had left, that I ignored the signs. I ignored my gut. I've been so focused on fighting cancer that I overlooked the fact that I was also fighting to keep a woman who was never really mine to begin with. She always had her lies, her secrets, her bitchy attitude hiding her true nature. I just never wanted to see it. Eventually, I started to rebuild my confidence. I stopped blaming myself entirely, because honestly, I was a good man. I was faithful, kind, and generous. She was the one who betrayed her vows, lied to my face, and played me like a fool. I told myself I'd be okay, that one day I'd find someone who deserved my trust and love. I wasn't there yet, but I was getting better. Slowly but surely. Now I won't lie, I still have days where I feel like an idiot for trusting her so much. I wonder if I could have done something differently, if I missed the signs, or if I just loved her too much. But deep down, I know I gave her everything and she threw it all away. That realization stings, but it also makes me stronger. I learned a hard lesson about integrity, betrayal, and the importance of listening to your instincts. Right now, I'm focusing on myself. I've started dating again, not rushing into anything but opening up to the idea that I can find happiness again. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust someone like I trusted Lisa, but I know I'll be more cautious, more aware. Because if there's one thing I've learned from this nightmare, it's that some people are just not worth your pain. And to anyone out there dealing with betrayal, my advice is simple. Don't ignore the signs. Don't be afraid to walk away if someone shows you who they really are. You deserve honesty, respect, and loyalty, things she and my brother clearly never gave me. I can't change what happened, but I can choose how I move forward. And I'm choosing to heal, to learn, and to hopefully find some happiness on the other side of this hell. Looking back now, I realize just how much this whole experience changed me, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. It's hard to say. I used to think love and trust were everything, but I learned the hard way that not everyone deserves those gifts. Some people will take your kindness and chew it up, spit it out, and walk all over you while they do it. Lisa and my brother did that to me, but I refuse to be a victim forever. I still feel the sting of betrayal every now and then. Sometimes I get angry, sometimes sad, but mostly I'm just tired of carrying the weight of what they did. I've come to accept that I wasn't just betrayed by her. I was betrayed by the idea of us, by the hope I had that maybe, just maybe, she was the one. Turns out she was just a lie wrapped in a pretty package, with a little bit of bitchiness thrown in for good measure. Now I focus on myself. I'm healing, physically and emotionally. I've started to rebuild my life, piece by piece. I refuse to let her define me or the damage she caused. I've learned that the real strength lies in walking away, in choosing yourself over the chaos and betrayal of someone who doesn't deserve your love or trust. I've learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply moving on and living well without them. I want to tell anyone listening that if you're ever in a situation like this, if someone you love cheats on you, lies, manipulates, or hurts you, trust your instincts. Don't be blind like I was. Don't ignore the signs or brush things off because you think it's easier. Because in the end, you'll regret staying quiet and accepting the bullshit. You deserve honesty and respect no matter what. And for me, one of the biggest lessons is that forgiveness isn't about them, it's about freeing yourself. I won't forget what happened, but I've decided I won't let it control me anymore. I forgive her, not because she deserves it, but because I need to let go of the anger. It's not about her anymore. It's about me reclaiming my life, my peace, and my happiness. So here I am, stronger than I was. I know I'll face challenges ahead, but I also know I'll get through them. Life's too precious to waste on people who don't value you. I'll keep moving forward, keep healing, and keep learning. That's all I can do. And honestly, that's enough.